welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing what dopamine is, what it might look like if you're low on dopamine, and ways to increase your dopamine levels, aka improve your mood, energy, focus, and a lot more. So let's get into it. But just so you can identify whether it's worth watching the rest of this video, here are some signs that you may be dealing with low dopamine. If you have ADHD, like myself, or otherwise have difficulty concentrating or focusing. If you feel like you're dealing with a lack of motivation, or maybe you have motivation but it's just hard to kick into gear, maybe you're dealing with low dopamine. Depression, anxiety, low sex drive, restless leg syndrome, brain fog, lack of pleasure in things you used to enjoy, sleep disturbances, and many other things. Comment below if you deal with any of the things that I just mentioned. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter and a hormone, and one of the 4 chemicals that are really responsible for making us feel good. Before we continue, just a really quick disclaimer. So I just want to name that I am not a doctor, I am not a medical professional, I am just a human with ADHD that has benefited a lot from learning about dopamine, how to naturally increase it. I am also an ADHD coach, so I utilize a lot of these things in my practice. The conversation about dopamine is complex and nuanced, and research is changing all the time. So I'm really just sharing from a lived experience perspective. So please make sure to do your research and check in with your doctors and medical professionals before trying the things that I'm mentioning. If you deal with low dopamine levels, and especially if you have ADHD like me, your brain is probably often in a place of understimulation. Some people think of this as boredom or restlessness, and can lead our brain to seek dopamine in a lot of different ways. Because dopamine really does help stimulate our brains and help us feel better and perform better. This can lead to us kind of going on autopilot and maybe overindulging in things like impulse spending, overeating, scrolling, drugs and alcohol, fighting with our spouses or our friends, or a lot of other things that can give us this kind of dopamine rush. Comment below what are the things that you engage in to kind of on autopilot get that dopamine rush. I want to name that these things are not always inherently bad, and it's not like you're never allowed to scroll on your phone or buy things to make yourself feel good. We just want to work on creating a mindful pause where you can kind of respond rather than react, so you can hopefully create a longer lasting feeling good, rather than that feeling when you're scrolling for hours and you know it doesn't feel good and you're continuing to do it anyway. The good news is that there are many different ways to increase dopamine, and I'm going to share some of them now, some of which are more heavily backed by research and some which are more heavily backed by lived experience. But this is all going to be experimental stuff for you to try out and just see what works or doesn't work for you. If this video does well and you're really enjoying it, I will turn this into a dose of dopamine diaries kind of a series where I share different things that I do to increase my dopamine in more of a vloggy format. So comment below if that is something that you're interested in. Without further ado, here are some of the things that I utilize to try to sustainably boost my dopamine levels. Like I said, I am absolutely not opposed to the social media scroll, or utilizing food for pleasure, or shopping on occasion to make ourselves feel good. These are tools that I also use, but right now I'm going to be talking about the things that tend to make me feel better longer term and after I'm utilizing the tool. Number 1 is sleep. I always aim to get between 7 to 9 hours of sleep, which can feel really hard to prioritize, but I know always makes me feel better. Number 2 are different supplements and vitamins. So some of the ones I personally use include omega-3s, vitamin D, B vitamins, magnesium, and L-theanine, which I typically get from matcha or green tea. Number 3, also this is not in order because this is probably my number 1 dopamine booster, is movement or exercise. I cannot even express how much movement supports me in feeling more energized, more focused, and just in a better overall mood. I personally like to switch it up, so I do dancing, I do lifting, I do climbing, I go for walks, I stretch, You can figure out what kind of movement feels good for you. There's no right or wrong here, so just experiment. Number 4 is I really tried to be mindful of my nutrition and try to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables and things that I know make me feel good. Specifically, foods that have tyrosine in it, which is a precursor for dopamine. So some of those foods include bananas, pumpkin seeds, chicken, dairy, avocado, soy, and a lot of other things. Number 5 is getting outside, especially if you can get some sunlight. Vitamin D is wonderful where dopamine and feeling good is concerned. So get outside. Remember, anything is better than nothing. So even if you can get outside for 1 minute and just step outside and get a breath of fresh air, that is likely to give your brain a little boost. Number 6 is just overall stress management, working on doing my very best to keep my stress levels on the lower side. I'm not always perfect at this, but it's something I'm always trying to work on, and I utilize a lot of different tools like meeting with my therapist, phoning a friend, deep breaths, and making sure that I'm just carving out enough me time where I know that I can have that time to rest and recharge. Number 7 is to accomplish something. Check something off your to-do list. It can feel really rewarding to feel like you got something done. And so try to find ways of creating small, manageable steps that you can take, because while it might feel really hard to get started, once you get that initial reward, that initial dopamine reward, it can kind of like spiral, and all of a sudden you can like feel more motivated and inspired to do more. Number 8 is engaging with novelty. So things that are new and exciting, whether that's learning something new, whether that's changing your hair, getting a haircut, changing the color of paint in your house, changing your office setup, getting a new planner. All of these things can really feel exciting for our brains and kick them into gear. Number 9 is getting a hobby or engaging in a hobby or something where you feel like you're working towards something. This will help give your brain something to like latch onto and be excited and have something to actively be looking forward to, so you're in less of like an understimulated space. And bonus points if you have ADHD and you get hyper fixated on that hobby. It can be a lot, but it can be really fun. Number 10 is music. Music helps me so much just feel like excited, and something I utilize alongside maybe a task that feels really boring or hard to initiate for me, like cleaning the kitchen. Number 11, kind of in the same vein, is listening to audiobooks or podcasts or having that auditory stimulation to accompany things that would otherwise not be stimulating at all for my brain. I do include YouTube in that. YouTube always helps stimulate my brain and get excited about something. So if I'm wanting to clean the house, I might watch a cleaning vlog, or if I'm wanting to work out, I might watch somebody working out, and it just gives me that like dopamine rush and excitement to do the thing. So those are a lot of the things that work for me. That doesn't mean it will work for you. You get to experiment and figure out what does. I want to name just a few other things that I've heard are really supportive for people or have been supportive for me at different times in my life. Some of those things include medication, like stimulants if you have ADHD, or other medication options, meditation, yoga, cold showers, and lots of other things. So help us out. Drop below what are the things that help increase your dopamine so we can crowdsource and share and get ideas from each other. So if you're kind of like, cool, this all sounds great, I'm on board, I'm with you, this resonates, where do I start? There are a lot of different options and there is no right or wrong. So you can either just take some of the things that I shared earlier and just play around with it, like try going outside for a little bit, or try getting a new hobby, or try smaller things that feel manageable for you. Just experiment with how those things feel for you. Or if you want to go all in, you can create something called a dopamine, which was created by Jessica over at How to ADHD. That is a YouTube channel that I absolutely love, so I'm gonna link that video in the description box. Definitely check out that will kind of break down how to organize different dopamine activities from things that feel really supportive long-term to some of those more like short-term things, and really will help kind of cut through some decision fatigue. And if you feel like you're needing some extra support, some community, some hand-holding, I have a bunch of different resources available for you. you, especially if you have ADHD. So I run an ADHD community called the Collective Empowerment Group. I've got a group coaching program called Metamorphosis starting in January, and I also do one-on-one coaching for anyone. So if any of those tools feel like they would be supportive for you, all of that will be linked in the description box, and you can also just send me an email or comment and we can talk more about how to get your dopamine juices flowing. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I love this topic, so please don't forget to let me know if you want me to turn this into a series or if this felt like enough support already. I upload videos here on YouTube weekly, and I also post over on my TikTok and my Instagram very regularly. So follow along and don't forget to like and comment because it really supports my channel. Comments give me the most dopamine, so please don't hold back. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!